Hello, everybody, and welcome back to that Milan podcast. No Santangelo today, but instead I am getting two more Italian Americans in here, in Gio Cozzolino and Dan Russo. Dan's been on here before, I think maybe last time we played or at some point. Gio's obviously been on. If you followed me for a very long time in anything, they're both good friends of mine in real life. Gio and I have done many things together. I even forgot the show we did together. I forget the name, the free kick. That's what it was.
Free kick.
And then he's been on State of Play a bunch. Two of the biggest Napoli fans that I know personally. Unfortunately, not the best of times for you guys, but how are the both of you?
I'm doing well. Appreciate it. I'm glad to be on. It's been a long time, so it's fun. And we got Dan with us today. I feel like I don't know if we've done one, all three of us. Or maybe it's been a long time.
No,
I
last
think
time,
it's been a very long time.
yeah, I think last time it was just me, and it was that game before the 4-0.
Yes, that's what it was.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it was.
Yeah, you guys were so pessimistic going into that game. Oh, you guys are gonna win.
How could you blame Milan fans at that point? We were so bad. We still didn't even finish top four, but I guess that's a good place to start because I wanted to talk about a little bit of how you guys won that title and everything that has pretty much transpired since then, because there's been a lot. But anyways, your Twitters are on the bottom if people want to go follow them. Gio doesn't tweet as much. Dan still does often. So he's always a great follow. But yeah, you guys finally won the title. It had to be. So you guys have seen three major titles as right Italian American Napoli fans, right? So it's the World Cup, the Euro, and then this. So I would assume that is this number one out of all three of those?
You want to start,
Dan?
Oh.
No, go ahead, Dan. You can take it. I know he loves this opinion anyway. So
for me, I love what?
Yeah, you like these debates, so go ahead. Go tell me your choice.
All right. For me, I'd have to. It might be a shocker, but I might have to go for the World Cup. Just because that sprung me into my fandom, like my soccer fandom. My soccer experience starts with that, so yeah, it has to be that. But Scudetto's a close second.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably choose between those two. Obviously, like the Euro would be the third ranked, but I don't know. Just I think I'm gonna have to pick the Scudetto just for me. I mean, the World Cup was the first thing I ever watched too when I was younger. I was like 10 at the time in 06 when I was first starting. That's when Napoli first came up anyway, or right after that. But probably the Scudetto. Probably there's just
you had unique experiences though, because again, we'll mention it. You were like, you don't really have to mention it, and probably some of your coworkers are watching. So you work for CBS Sports and Serie A. You're on the production side of things. You were at the Maradona last year. You took a picture on the field. You even got on air too after Napoli finally won.
Yeah.
So just that overall experience, it's completely different. Your perspective. I know you very well, and Dan knows you very well. I know for a fact you didn't fucking think you would ever do something like that or experience something like that. So talk about that at least. I mean, you got to not only go there and experience all of that, but like it was the year that Napoli won too. Like if I would have told, I know if I would have told you that 5 years ago, you would have told me to fuck off. But I mean, in all reality, like how incredible was that for you?
Oh, it's like indescribable. 2023 was a huge year for me. I mean, I got engaged too, so everything happened all in one year, which was nice. But yeah, no, man. I mean, like
no chance for me.
It's hard to describe. I mean, first, yeah, going there, we had done 2 other remote trips, and like that was the first one in Napoli. Obviously, the game didn't go well. I mean, that's what, like just about 10 months ago or so with the 4-0. Obviously didn't go well, but just to think like stepping on that field and then in the year that they would win it. And you're right. 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, I would never tell you we'd win it after coming close a few times. I would think that like, yeah, there it is. I had too many pictures that day. It was great. It's something like, you wait for a while. And honestly, it was like I said on air, which was another thing, which is cool. I was happy for my dad mostly because, he'd seen the other ones too with Maradona, but and it was my first one, but I'm glad we got to experience it together. Like that was a big thing for me, especially because look at how quick things change, and you don't know when you're going back to it. But yeah, the whole thing getting on air was funny too. Like we had been on air together, like we co-hosted something. So like, I'm not worried about getting on camera, but it's just like quick funny thing was like I was supposed to go on Zoom for them the week before against Salernitana, and then we tied, so we didn't clinch the title. So then no one said anything the rest of the week, and I was like, all right, cool. So I'm in the clear. So we were in studio for the Udinese game, and so they tied a clinch or whatever. The game's over, and then they're not saying anything. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm working. Like I'm literally doing my job. And then they're like, then they have De Laurentiis on. They got him on, and then right after he's done, Gio, you're up next. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, why am I going after the president of Napoli? So that was funny. But like the single word is indescribable. It's just incredible.
Yeah. And then Dan, real quick for you before we get into reality. With your father too, you guys have a great relationship with this. I've seen what was it? It was Italy, Turkey that we watched at your place during the Euro. It's a great experience with your father. He's one of the funniest guys to watch a game with. So how was that? Because I know it was beautiful for you guys too when you got to even go out there and experience the celebrations. Because everything you see, like how long did it last out there? Probably like 2 months or something like that.
Oh
probably.
my God! There was still, the whole city was still decorated when we went in July. So
yeah, that's insane.
Yeah.
And for perspective for people, again, if you don't obviously know, if you're newer, like the season finished in May, so that's going on for a while.
I mean, they had the city decorated and prepared for the Scudetto since like March. They were already preparing for it.
Oh yeah, it was in the bag. So
crazy.
real quick before we move on though, was the victory over Juve, the 5-1, right? Was that the one that you guys thought like, okay, yeah, we're actually gonna do this?
Absolutely. That was the game. I mean, I already had feelings of it. Even after crazily enough, the Spezia game earlier in the season when Raspadori scored in the 92nd minute, whatever it was, to win the game. That's when I was like, something can happen this year. Because that's just a team that we'd never beat at home.
I know what you're saying.
And
they might get relegated, by the way, to Serie C. They're doing really bad.
Good.
I just knew that would be your reaction to it.
Yeah. That just shows you how out of touch I am this year because of Napoli, what they've done to me, because usually I know the whole standings, even Serie B, but I had no idea the Spezia were like that.
Yeah,
good. Happy to hear that.
I think it's like Como, Parma. I think Palermo is like lurking to possibly get promoted. But yeah,
Palermo.
Yeah.
Damn.
Hey, City Group, baby.
Time.
Look what they did with Girona. So they're on their way up. So, anyways, what were we talking about? Unfortunately, we're in 2023, 2024. You guys are struggling mightily. One of the worst. I mean, Milan last year was one of the worst title defenses that the league has ever seen. I think it was probably the worst in the 3-point era. And now you guys this year, I mean, disastrous. So 22 points from the top right now. ADL. There's so many different things that are really happening. So I guess we'll start with the resignation of Spalletti, because that was kind of when things started going awry. You won your league. You're celebrating. Everything's all happy. I believe ADL triggered some clause to have Spalletti come back for the extra year on his contract. And then things were starting to unravel after that. He ends up leaving. Kim ends up getting that release clause triggered from Bayern. There was nothing you could really do at that point. There was no real negotiations. I know you guys would have loved to have kept somebody like that. And so with that, you bring in Rudy Garcia. You don't really get a top-tier replacement. Lindstrom comes in on the right wing position. He's really struggled. I know he did a little bit better against Verona, I believe. But still, it's kind of been a nightmare follow-up season. And I know people joke about all the time, like if they don't see their team win for decades, they're like, oh, I don't care if we suck the next season. Like, it doesn't matter to me. I just want to see one. Do you still agree with that? Or it's a little bit easier to swallow because of what happened last year?
Can I go, Gio? Yeah.
No, go ahead.
All right. I was saying that all of last season, but it was complete bullshit. I'm going to be totally honest with you. Yeah. Watching this team this year is really depressing, especially the games against, I want to say Roma was terrible, and Lazio. Both of those games, I mean, obviously the games that we play against, Torino and losing 3-0 are terrible as well. But like, these are games last year that you looked forward to.
Yeah.
Because we were killing everybody. And it wasn't just like 1-0, like a tight win. No, I mean, we were dominating games. It was fun to watch. The whole world was watching us. Now it's like everyone just completely forgot about us. We don't exist. We only exist because of Kvaratskhelia and Osimhen right now, and De Laurentiis because he's in the papers every day for whatever reason.
Oh, yeah, which is typical ADL when things are kind of going, out there. I mean, listen. So again, like just to even talk about it, Rudy Garcia comes in, who was a flop in Saudi Arabia. I don't think anyone really envisioned him coming in here. And if I remember correctly, the main reason he was brought along was because he played a 4-3-3, and they wanted to stick with that formation. Did you like that hire from the beginning or hated it? Like, what was your opinion of it? Because you knew anyways, like without Spalletti, it was going to be a downgrade. But what was your feeling about the hire?
No, I didn't like it at all. Also, it's like almost, it really is a joke. Like the guy said, like I hadn't watched Napoli, and everyone thought he was joking, but then he said it again, and then it's like De Laurentiis like admitted afterwards, pretty much. Again, you don't even know like what quotes are real sometimes because like
of
it's
course,
taken out of context and whatnot. But then he's like, yeah, no, he did tell me that he didn't play or whatever, and it's he didn't watch, and it's like it's not even funny, man. Like that makes you look terrible. Like.
And like when Jamarcus Russell didn't watch any tape.
Yeah, exactly. Like, how? Oh, you had a dinner with the guy and he was nice. Like, I don't know. It's just I'm glad he admitted he was wrong, but like to come out and admit it afterwards, it's almost like a double whammy. It's like it just doesn't look good on you. But also like the whole Spalletti thing. Just going back to that real quick, Martino. Like the whole, I was really like I was kind of defending ADL back in the summer when it happened because I'm almost thinking like if it's a contractual thing and he triggered it, right? Then like Spalletti knows that's in the contract. So like, why are you getting mad that you were triggered to stay? And obviously you want more money because you won the Scudetto. I get it. It goes both ways. But then in hindsight, it's just like you have to keep Spalletti at all costs. But hindsight is one thing. Now you see how bad of a flop Garcia was, and it definitely was the whole 4-3-3 thing. It must have been because look at Mazzarri. Like we played 2 solid games under him in the Supercoppa, back end with the 3 at the back, which is his formation. And then he switches back to a 4-3-3 against Verona last week, and we barely won again. So it's like, what are we doing? Like, are we going to let him actually coach, or it's still going to be this 4-3-3 philosophy? It's like a whole thing,
Which also, again, something I didn't even remember to mention, Dan, is Giuntoli leaving. And again, that was kind of like, I think that was the most expected out of all those things. Like those reports were legitimate, I think, through the entire time that his contract was running down. Juve was calling him because, one, I'm pretty sure he's a Juve fan or rooted for them when he was younger. And then on top of it, like they've been terrible for a while. So they needed to hire somebody like him. And then who did you hire? Was it Lecce's director that you get to replace him?
I think so, yeah.
So like it's someone also not with a great track record. To me, it just kind of felt like ADL had too much control this past summer, and what the decisions that he was making were pretty much still the issues to today because none of this has gone right. I can't even think of like one move that you guys have had over the summer that's like, okay, well, at least we have that. Like, maybe I'm wrong. I just can't truly think of one at the moment.
You're not. None of them have been good. I mean, Nathan is a decent player. He's shown us. Obviously been injured for a while, so hopefully he comes back strong. But maybe Lindstrom turns the corner with this latest performance on the weekend. But I mean, it still remains to be seen. But other than that, I mean, those are the only like small silver linings I could find from this summer. This past summer, the damage that was done is like it's inquantifiable. You can't describe it. You can't possibly describe it. It's incredible. I've never seen one person, and I hate just blaming it completely on him because it's clear, even the players as well need to share some blame. Obviously, the coach, but who hires the coach? You guys were saying that Rudy Garcia is a flop, but honestly, I don't see him as a flop. That's him. That's what he is. what he showed us. How can you be a flop if that's what you are? I don't see how De Laurentiis could have possibly thought that was a good hire. I don't understand. He clearly didn't have his collaborators with him this summer. He just wanted to make decisions on his own, and he got too cocky, which I didn't even know that's possible because he's already cocky to begin with. And this is what happened. This is the result. I can't possibly look at him right there. I can't possibly say one good thing that he's done since the Scudetto.
That director, by the way, Meluso, I'm pretty sure he's like I think he's from Spezia, which is even worse.
Yeah,
okay,
director from Spezia.
Yeah, which is fine. You know what I mean? Like he could be from a small place. Like Giuntoli came from Carpi. You know what I mean?
Fair. That's fair. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
yeah, but like the track record and like them playing well. Like when Sarri came from Empoli, like Empoli were playing well. They played good football at least.
Right.
Like I don't know what he saw from Spezia. I can't even name a Spezia talent. What Verde, right? Was he the guy who played?
Or Maggiore, something like that.
Oh wait, no, but
okay.
Povega's not a Spezia talent though.
Yeah. Mr. Green is the only thing that they have. Like so, I think those decisions. Do you think they set you back by a couple of years? Because I think at this rate, like everything that you've seen, even in the past week or two, you're kind of like, okay, who wants to come here and manage at this point?
Yeah, I think that's the problem. I think that's what's the worst part of this like downfall is that like what's the consequence and what's like the repercussion about it? It's like now a manager can't really come in. I mean, a manager always needs his time to like the new manager always needs time to like, obviously get the team flowing under his play or whatever his style is, whatever he wants to implement as a coach. But you lost the whole season because you now you just have a caretaker. So that one whole season's gone. And like, who is the coach going to be? I'm sure we're going to talk about it, but like, who's the coach going to be? I think that's another reason why, like, he tried to get ADL. I'm talking about tried to get some players to like get us to top 4 in January, but you could see that like certain players that we were linked to, he didn't go for. And I feel like if I'm thinking logically, which we don't know with him if that's what's going on. If I'm thinking logically, it's because he doesn't know who the manager is going to be. So like, you don't want to spend all this money on players in January, and the manager won't even use those guys. So I feel like certain signings like Ngonjo, or like you need a forward, and Politano's getting older. He's a winger. Osimhen's been away. That makes sense. You needed some reinforcements at the midfield. So you got like Traore and Dendonker who don't have to stay. You could send them back.
Yeah.
But like that's the whole thing. He didn't get a center back. Like we've been struggling at the back line. We can't keep any clean sheets. You didn't get any center back in January with Nathan Hurt, who's coming back shortly, but you didn't get any center backs. That tells me like he doesn't want to spend the money if he doesn't know that the coach next year will like him or like use him at the 3 at the back or 4 at the back. That's another problem. And I think we are set back at least a full year. Now, like next year with a coach coming in and Osimhen probably leaving, you're probably not going to be title contenders next year either. And so, that's what I'm worried about most. Yeah, and Inter, now they're improving with Iman Zielinski, who that's another story. Like now, I don't know if he's shunned out from the club. So it is a mess. It is a mess. It's a mess.
So I just always been like thinking, like I never saw Conte as a realistic possibility for you guys, just because like, it's not even a talent thing. It's just of who he is, who ADL is, what he requires. With the types of players that he wants to play with. I don't think Napoli have that. It's not a good match at all. And he was never going to take over in the middle of the season. Like we only saw him do that one time with Tottenham, and that was a disaster for him. He always likes his preparation and drilling his guys over a complete summer. Every time I keep on thinking of a name for you guys, and Dan, you could tell me if you agree or disagree with it. I just feel like he's going to try and make a move for Italiano from Fiorentina. And it just feels like just because it's a safer move, it's not really something that, jumps out at you on paper, because I kind of don't like the way he plays. I think Italiano is a very, I would say, pragmatic manager. He's the perfect Serie A type of manager where he just likes to play defensively. And if he can get some points, he will gladly take that. But offensively, I don't really like the way they play. They just swing in crosses like 50 billion times and have some of the worst finishers you have ever seen. So I don't know. It could feel like something like that just to get you guys back into top 4. Who would you hire that you think is even realistic, like that would be available for you guys? Come this summer.
I mean, I think De Laurentiis also been flirting with the idea of Palladino from Monza, which I wouldn't even mind him as well. He's also from Naples, so that's an added plus.
There you
go. Italiano, I really liked the way that he was able to get the most out of the players in Spezia, literally turning trash into like somewhat decent play. I think he had them stay up like 2-3 years in a row.
Yeah, I think it was like 2, and then he left for Fiorentina. Yeah.
But yeah, Fiorentina this year have been diabolical going forward. I don't know what's going on there. I honestly, I think it could also be just the lack of finishers, like you said, because Icone is one of the worst players I've ever seen in my life.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
I can't. That guy's the worst. Sorry, go ahead.
The only time he ever starts to play is against Napoli, and I can't stand it.
Just like Bonaventura, right?
Literally. Oh my God, Jack is. He needs to. When he retires, that's the 4th Scudetto for Napoli.
Gio, who would you think? Palladino? I mean,
yeah, I was speaking to Dan about this too, like just in general conversation, because we talk about Napoli, and I feel like Palladino makes sense because of just I think also we loaned some players out to them. One thing, like 2 players. I know it's not many major players like Zerbina and Popovic, but just maybe starting to get that relationship with him and Monza, you know what I'm saying? And maybe he would come over. And he's touted by a couple clubs. Like I know Juve was linked to him at one point, and some of the bigger teams that he can move over, obviously, because Monza being mid-table. So I wouldn't mind Palladino. It would be a 3 at the back, which I think we have some players that could play there. And then, it would be a little bit of a shift, and then we'll see. But I think my dream signing is like it would be Conte, and I think I've battled with this idea in the past of like those 2 personalities going at it together doesn't really mesh well. Like they're gonna butt heads, and there's gonna be issues. And like you mentioned, Martino, like just the fact that Conte demands signings and he needs player, who he wants is who he needs to get, and that's going to cost you hundreds of millions. That's the one side of why I see it probably wouldn't happen. But we need someone like that, like someone who's going to like kick you into shape, like drive you down into the ground until you are following his methods. And we've seen him get it out of teams. Like we've seen it countless times. Like it's not unproven. He's proven everywhere he's gone besides like Tottenham that he can get you to the top or a top 4 and be that team. So my dream is that, but I feel like we're probably in the realm of, like you mentioned, Italiano, Palladino, even Thiago Motta, who apparently already rejected the club last summer.
His agent, what was he? His agent was on Radio Kiss Kiss, and he was saying,
I think so. Yeah, he said he wasn't ready or just wasn't keen
or
for it.
He won't work for Napoli. Was like the quote. It was like
Makes
crazy.
Sense. Yeah, so one of those guys, honestly, anyone but whoever we've had this like a personality of this season, and we'd be in better shape.
Yeah. And kind of just the last thing before we move on to the game. ADL and his sale. We're seeing more and more rumors of a few Serie A clubs, Milan included. Inter are gonna have to figure out something come May when their loans are due with Oaktree. So there's gonna possibly be some refinancing with Suning. And then there was rumors yesterday with Roma and Saudi Arabia. We'll see about that. I'm not fully convinced. I don't know why anybody would buy Roma at this point. They're not even financially healthy. But that's besides that. As far as ADL goes, right, I think he's done as much as he possibly could with this team. He's made them financially healthy. We know like the stadium issue. You can't really do much over there in Italy. It's a fucking joke. And then on top of it, getting you guys from Serie C all the way to the champions of Italy where you dominated, what else could he really do? And he got you as far as you ever been in the Champions League last year. So it's kind of like, okay, you've taken us to this point, but how much further can he really take you? Because he's not worth that much money. So realistically, he's not going to be able to just constantly infuse all this cash. A lot of the money is going to have to come from an Osimhen sale this coming summer. So are you guys kind of at a crossroads right now where I kind of see him holding on for another couple years? I don't see maybe someone coming in unless they blow him away. but like, is it time to sell for him, or what do you think?
It could be. It remains to be seen what he does this summer. I think this upcoming summer is going to be really contingent on whether he should stay or not. It's making mistakes, especially like this. It's human. He hasn't made many. I mean, he's made mistakes, but nothing like this. In his tenure. I've never seen a De Laurentiis so like out of sorts in my whole life. He's usually always been consistent. This is the way the club is run. This is what we're gonna do. And usually all the replacements for all these people, like we could lose anybody, we'll always have a good replacement for them. Whether it be a coach, a player, a sporting director, whoever it was, there was always a good replacement already lined up as well. There was already a project in place to replace these people. And yet I don't understand where it all went wrong last year, whether it be that he had this complex where no matter what he touches turned to gold. I don't know what it was that created this monster this year, but I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. Give him this summer, see what happens. Hopefully next year he turns the ship around. If not, I feel like he would resign. I really do. I feel like if there's another season like this, I feel like he would.
Gio, you see that? I don't see De Laurentiis resigning.
I don't think he would resign. And if anything, like if he leaves, then I feel like he would put his family in place, which I'm worried about. Like, because his son has been the VP, so I don't know if that's necessarily how I see it. But I know where Dan's coming from. I think it's just a lot of Napoli fans. Like, I know the consensus is like, he's egotistical and not very well liked as a person. But like a lot of Napoli fans will have the utmost respect for him up till this year, just because he's done very well over the course of his like ownership of Napoli, just to get us where we are. Even the few like Coppa Italia titles, then we finally got the Scudetto. We're always like a Champions League team, whether get it out of the group stage or not. But a lot of people would respect what he's done. So for him to go out quickly, it probably doesn't make sense. Like I think you were saying, Martino, you don't see it in the next couple of years, and I kind of agree with that. I just think like it's in his like just mindset to try to redeem himself. I don't think he wants to go out like this.
Yeah.
You know? And if Napoli can get back into the Champions League again and just have like another deep run if possible, or another decent run, even at the Scudetto, forget Champions League, I feel like that will boost also maybe a sale, like like another investment or company or whoever else who's going to buy him would see like this team is worth it. So I feel like he's going to try to have one more run, whether it's at a league title or a deep run in the Champions League somehow, before we even see a sale. It just feels like it just feels odd for him to want to sell right now.
And by the way, sorry.
No, go.
I was just going to say, by the way, going back to what I said, resign. I didn't mean resign. I meant stepping down, because he's got his kids there. He's going to obviously give it to Edo or something like that, De Laurentiis, or even Luigi, the other guy. But I think Luigi's with Body right now, but they're having really bad problems with Body. The Body fans are like they want their throats, all of them. So remains to be seen what happens there.
So we finally talk about the game. So sorry, Milan fans, for the first half hour. That was all Napoli, but we're trying to get into this match. Funny enough, obviously, you know how fickle Milan fans can be, guys, because it's always like funny. Like Gio and I would always like, no, it's sort of like what New York Giants fans are like right now. And I know Dan is like, Giants fans are like, oh, this is horrible. Like we suck right now, and all this is like, oh yeah, well, welcome to the shit show, because this is what it's been like for a very long time. So like, you don't want to hear like fans of teams that have won a lot complain. But there's a lot of Milanisti who are complaining because of what they've been like after they won the title, which is, again, one of the worst title defenses. This year has been better offensively, but, when you're this far behind Inter, there's nothing to really smile about. So What has been your perspective of Milan this year, guys? And I know like maybe you're not able to watch this as much as you would like. I know Gio, you get a better opportunity to. But what has been your opinion of this Milan side? I thought we would finish third. I never really liked this defense, but I also didn't like envision like Kier and Gabbia to be starting multiple games in a row, like in important parts of the season. So what have you really like thought about us so far? Like I think we're just like a top 4 team and there's nothing else to it really.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go first just because, yeah, I've seen multiple Milan games. Honestly, I might have seen Milan more than Napoli this year just with the nature of work. But I probably would say that you guys are probably where you're supposed to be. Like your standings reflect, I think, the team, right? Like if someone asked me earlier this year before the season where I had Milan, I probably would have said third. I mean, I'm not going to just take credit for like where they're at now, but I probably would have said that just for how it looked going into this year. I thought you're better than last year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And obviously that's without, saying, but I think you're right about the offense, and like Giroud's still getting it done, although you want like a more prolific person, I understand,
Yeah.
and just a younger striker. But he's still scoring goals. Pulisic looks really good at Milan, and I'm glad, honestly, for his sake as well, because he needed he's always good for the national team, but he needs to get back on that club stage, and he is. So you made some good signings. Like Loftus-Cheek has proven to be good when he's healthy on the field. Like he's been pretty solid. Reinders is like a neat player, so. I think you're right there in terms of the defense, though. Like, I know Tomori's had some injury issues and whatnot, but the defense has dropped off a little bit, and like you guys can't rely on Calabria to still be the right back, and so it's a mix of things, and I'm sure you can speak to that, but I think that it makes sense where they are in the standings. But even Magnan, dude, like Magnan's dropped off a little bit, and I don't know if that's contract issues and whatnot, but he's been struggling as well. Like there's been plenty of saves that last year he's making all of them. This year it's getting between his legs or beating him at the near post. So it's a little worrisome in that case. But I think you're right where you should be this year. Like I think your lock for Champions League barring a huge disaster. There's no way. There's no one close.
I know. I agree. This league sucks this year too. I don't think people like really understand. Like you could just watch that whole top 4 race, even though I think there could be a 5th Champions League spot depending on how the teams do in the competitions. But we'll see. But I don't. They're like 10 points up on Atalanta, who are 4th right now. So Dan, what have you seen so far?
I liked it, to be honest. I mean, I would agree with Gio. I think they're just right where they're supposed to be. I think they could be in front of Juve, to be honest. I still don't see much out of Juve. I don't know where it's coming from. Obviously Vlahovic is doing well, so maybe that's what's propelling them. But
Bremer, I think Bremer, if it wasn't for Lautaro, Bremer's player of the season, in my opinion.
Probably,
I can't even imagine like a better center back this year, like even close to him.
He's so good. It's ridiculous. So I think as a team collectively, if it weren't for injuries, I think Milan would be ahead of Juve. I
that
sincerely
shit game we had against them.
Believe that.
Hard, like the 15th minute. Sorry. See now the puck has split. Now I'm getting annoyed about it.
He's going spinning.
I know probably Juventini will be really pissed at what I'm saying about them, but I just
we're like 4 points off of them. It's not ridiculous.
It's not.
The game goes different against them where we're not that they barely beat us when they were up a man for nearly 80 minutes. So like is it really ridiculous to say? I don't think so. And they're also been playing once a week. And I'd love to see Juve if they missed all their defenders like we have. So
right.
I don't really think it's like kind of the same level. I think we all agree though, like Inter.
By far and away,
else, right? Like I'd be stunned if they don't win the league. So with that, we'll just get into this game. The first match between the two of us this year was hilarious. I can't even imagine a funnier game that happened. Milan go up 2-0, and like in classic fashion, they blew the lead, which they have done multiple times this year. The way you guys got back into it, Raspadori's free kick goal was incredible. I thought that was fantastic. Even Politano, I think Politano's goal is a perfect example of, Gio, what you were highlighting with Magnan. I think the defense was terrible because Pellegrino got spun like a ballerina on that one. But just to get beaten near post over on the top of Magnan's head. So Politano, one of my like 50 doppelgangers, scored. So that one finished in a 2-2 draw. I mean, that was ugly. I think I think you guys would have loved to have taken that point at that time. For us, it was a disaster and kind of one of the reasons why we're behind where we're at right now in the standings. And so with that, I think Milan they played really well in that first half, and it was just an utter collapse. It was pretty pathetic. I think we had an opportunity to score and beat you guys towards the end of that, and our finishing is just horrific at times. So with this, you guys play well at San Siro. You've done that over the past like I don't know what, like 10 years, honestly. It's been, you guys always like do a great job of getting a result like you did last year. But this time, like we have here, no Osimhen, Merit is probably out, but Golini has been very good for you guys from what I've seen. Mario Rui not playing in that. Oliveira, I think, Dan, you were saying like he's in training, so he's not like fully back. Even then, like he's been shaky at times. And Zielinski, listen, I mean, contract running out. He's been one of your better players that past 10 to 15 years. If he doesn't play in this one, and he's a Milan killer almost every single time he plays us too. He always steps up. These are huge absences. There's no denying it. And the drop of form that you guys have had as well. What are your confidence levels heading into this match?
Gio, you want to go?
Nah, you go first.
He's never going to go first, bro.
Yeah. Dude, below 0. And that's like putting it lightly. I don't see us getting a result out of this game, to be honest. I mean, the last time we had our chance to beat you guys with Quada in the last second of the game with that chance, but I think other than that, it's not happening this year. I don't think we've won against a Big 6 team at all. I think. I might be mistaken this year. Inter we lost, Juve we lost, you guys we didn't beat, Lazio we didn't beat, Roma we didn't beat. I mean, it's not happening. It's not jiving. I mean, if we were to win completely against the run of play, that's the only way we're gonna win.
Yeah, and that's very doable against us. But are you afraid the Cavada stopper in Calabria is gonna take over again? Right.
Dude, it's happened too many times.
I mean, look, if they employ Kara and Lindstrom at the same time, it's gonna be very difficult for Milan to stop Kara.
But do you think you guys are even like, and it's not to say like Mazzari is stupid, but like is he intelligent enough to like see what was working last game and be like, go and play that again? Because what Gio was talking about when he's playing at 3 at the back and it looked like it was working, and then he goes back to a 4 at the back. Like, is he smart enough to say like, okay, something is working, let's stick with it, or is he going to revert back to like, oh no, we'll go back to 4-3-3?
The thing is, if it only worked because we finally had some balance in the midfield. There's just no balance in the midfield when you have this guy Cayust, which I don't even want to name him anymore. One of the worst players I've ever seen play for Napoli.
That guy is horrible.
Horrific.
Terrible.
And Anguissa at the same time. They're two guys that play the same type of role. Obviously, Anguissa way better than Cayust, but you can't play a 4-3-3 with those guys. And Lobotka looks terrible because of it. Once he changed formations, Lobotka looked like the best player on the field again.
Yes,
finally, and that's what we were waiting for. So I mean, I hope we're wrong, and Mazzari does see that and tries to do it against Milan again, but we'll see.
Gio, who worries you most about from the Milan side of things? So no Reinders for this, so it's probably going to be. Pioli's been changing it up a little bit, right? So like it's been the 4-2-3-1 that has been working for us for a while, or he goes with 4-3-3. When he does a 4-3-3, what Milan's main issue has been they don't have a proper number 6. It looks like Benacer is going to be starting. I don't think it'll be Adli centrally. So it's looking possibly like Musa, Loftus-Cheek, and Benacer in the midfield. If not, it could be Adli, Benacer, Loftus-Cheek. I don't really love the midfield. Do you think that's something that you're honestly worried about? Because again, this is not a strong defensive midfield shape that Milan would have.
Yeah,
if they were to go with that.
I probably, if you ask me like what area I'm worried about, I think 2 players come to mind right away for me. Well, 3, but one of them's obviously like Leao. Obviously, I know he hasn't been the Leao, but he always worries you, especially when he's attacking. Like what's going to be he's on the left wing. So I think So Di Lorenzo would have to deal with him, but Di Lorenzo hasn't been Di Lorenzo this year in some games, so I worry about that. But just Leao aside, just because he's the obvious player, I think the two players, and these are kind of obvious too, is Giroud, just because like our defense is awful. Like anyone in the air is going to score, and he's got bullet headers. He's just still tall. He can still get his way up there for a header, and he's going to get one over Rahmani because he doesn't jump, so it doesn't matter. And Nathan isn't back yet, so I will give Juan Jesus some credit. Like he's looked solid the past few games, but he's not like he's not Kim, and he's not Nathan either. So like you can't really expect him to at this age be prolific, but also Teo. Like Teo is going to kill somebody on that field because the guy is just like too elusive. He's going to get by whoever he's playing against too. That's the problem, and that's on Di Lorenzo's side as well. So you're going to need whoever's on that side with Di Lorenzo to help him on that side of the midfield, and that's who is that this year? Is it Anguissa? I can't even remember at this point because we shifted so many midfielders. It might be Cayuste. So God bless that, so that's not good either. So I would say those three areas, just because our defense is so weak. I mean, the midfield I feel like might cancel out, but I think you guys might have the better informed midfield, if Reinders was playing at least. But
yeah,
Benasset also has killed Napoli in the past. So if he starts, it's not like the worst case for Milan. I know he was hurt and then hasn't looked like himself, and obviously hasn't played as much, but he's done Napoli bad too in the past few years.
Yeah. Dan, is there anyone specifically? Is it Captain America?
Pulisic is bagging. Pulisic is bagging this weekend. I hate.
He hasn't scored in a little while, so this is. I'm ready for the Dan Russo. Like, of course, Pulisic turns into Maradona versus Napoli.
Honestly, I really hope they switch. Obviously, Mazzocchi's going to play.
Yeah,
but I really hope they switch Mazzocchi on the right and Di Lorenzo on the left. Because Mazzocchi, for whatever reason, Leao literally just does not understand how to play against this guy. I think every time I've seen Salernitana play against Milan, Leao does nothing. Mazzocchi just has this guy in his pocket. So it would be amazing to see. Obviously, it's not going to happen,
but yeah. So I guess we just go into who we think is going to win at this point. You guys are both kind of pessimistic about it. I don't see Napoli winning. I think best case scenario for you guys again is a draw. And I think if I were you guys, that's incredible to get at this point in time. You take a couple of good results in a row. Milan have also been in great form in Serie A, which is kind of funny. The only 2 losses that they've had recently have been against Atalanta. That's been in Coppa Italia. And then that last second, of course, the back heel from Muriel before he screws off to Orlando City. Milan have been in good form. The defense is horrific. I would have been more worried if you didn't have as many injury absences. So if we kind of want to get a final score line for this before we have one more question for you guys here, what do you guys think ends up being the score of this one? Dan, you can go first, and then Gio, and then I'll go.
2-0 Milan.
Milan clean sheet? Okay. Gio?
I'd say like 2-1 Milan. I think it goes back to your point, Martino, real fast, just about like what Mazzari is going to do with the formation. I think if he does go back to the 3, and I don't even know if it's him making these decisions. Like, I don't know if he's being told to play the 4-3-3 or not. I kind of feel bad for the guy. He was put in a tough spot regardless. But
yeah,
I think if he goes back into 3, you might see a more manageable game, like a 1-0.
Yeah.
And you're right, 100%. Like if we get a draw, I'm happy with the game. Like we're at that point where we need just a point in these big games, but I think 2-1 Milan.
I think it'll be 3-1 Milan. I think that we've been playing really well offensively, and guys like Pulisic and Leao haven't really have scored as much in the league, which is kind of, I know it's kind of like sound a little lazy, but it's kind of like they're due. Like eventually one of them is going to score. I think Giroud is always like a target man. And something that's been a strength for you guys, or it was a strength for you guys last year, has kind of been a strength for us. Like a guy like Noah Okafor and Luka Jovic have been really good off the bench. Milan have scored the most goals for players being substituted on the field this season. I think we're up to 10 or 11 now. I think they scored their 10th when Jovic got the winner.
He's got 4. He's tied for like the most, I think.
It's incredible. I was attacking this guy for the longest time, but he's actually been really productive for them. I just think what Milan are able to add off of the bench for this match and what Napoli can't. I think that's going to be the difference with this one. And again, but you can't always rule out what's coming midweek because they play runs in Europa League. So what Milan were dropping a lot of important fixtures last year because Pioli does not know how to rotate well. But we'll see how that works out. And what you were talking about, just real quick, and we'll make this the final thing before you guys can plug your stuff. What is a successful season for Napoli now? I mean, you're pretty much knocked out of every competition except for Serie A. It's got to be just making top 4 or a Champions League spot, right? Like, I mean, you can still, as crazy as it sounds, and I tweeted this out, Barcelona are also a train wreck. I wouldn't completely rule out you guys pulling out a rabbit out of your hat in the Champions League, and I know a lot of your fans are not going to agree with me, but if you somehow manage to knock out Barcelona, you get that Champions League money. Who knows what happens in the next tie with that? Probably not going to go great. But is it really just the top 4? Because this is still doable. And you have 2 of the best attacking players in the league. Like, this isn't completely out of the question for you guys to make top 4. What is a successful season, Dan?
I think, Dan, you can go.
Or
Go ahead.
Gio. Yeah, I was surprised you would go first.
Yeah, I just was because it just came to my mind. Like, I think the whole Barcelona thing is funny. Like, just the fact that, I mean, we've lost them in the past, but then we both get to this point and we're both absolutely just putrid. Like, it's awful. Like, both of us have our own things going on. I think they can beat him, obviously, depending on like Osimhen being back in time, and because Nigeria made the final up to the recording of this. So it does depend, I think, on him. If you don't have him, I don't think we do anything. He's kind of like the wild card. Not that he's been great this year either, but it's just the whole team. But having that presence makes a difference. But I agree, Martino. I think, and I think Dan would agree also. Top 4 is the objective, and it's still reachable, which is crazy. I think they're 4 points from Atalanta.
Yeah, like, so you're 4 points off of Atalanta, only 3 points behind Roma, but Roma have the game in hand. So, again, Roma, I know people are a little bit more positive about them, but if you saw who they played these past 3 matches, it's not like, oh, yeah, Roma turned the corner. Like, they're playing better, they're scoring more, but they're playing like Cagliari, what was it, Frosinone, I think, was another one in Verona. Just not really great teams. But, Dan, success-wise, you agree with all that?
Absolutely, and I would go one further. I think it's obvious, it's doable to an extent against Barcelona, but we need to do it because there's not just only going further in the Champions League, which we'll get knocked out in the quarterfinals anyway if we do go, but I think if we get to the quarterfinals and at least get one result out of one of those games, we make the Club World Cup. Like, the financial implications for the rest of this season are massive. I think we have like over 100 million euros on the table for us this year, maybe even more. I think probably close to 150.
It could be a significant war chest.
It's ridiculous. Like you have to. These are objectives that must be met. Like, for a team like Napoli, it just has to.
If you factor in the Osimhen sale, which just, I mean, I think ADL even commented on that publicly that he knew he was leaving. I again, like Gio says, like, who the fuck knows if these quotes are real or not? But that's one of them that I saw. So I wouldn't completely rule it out. I think you guys would be in very good shape to acquire somebody. But yeah, anything else that you guys wanted to talk about before we finish here? I know, Gio, you're pressed for time, around like 50 minutes in now, so it's a good time to sort of wrap this up.
Yeah, Gio's got a job. I got nothing better to do.
Yeah, year 7 of university, as the Europeans would call it, right?
Yeah.
You guys, like, just real quick, I guess, just for Serie A purposes, you think Inter's going to win this? They get number 20 then, and unfortunately, the second team to get the second star in the league.
They get 19. They only get 20. They get a fake Scudetto in 2006.
And this is coming from a neutral fan, by the way. If there's some Inter fans that are coming in here, not defending us, this is a neutral in Dan Russo.
They're the favorite. Yeah, they're gonna win. They're too good, way too good. And honestly, they got a bad matchup in the Champions League because I think, who is it? Atletico, right?
That's a good question. I'll look up right now.
I think
Atletico.
Yeah, and Atletico has been really good this season too, even though they just lost in the Copa del Rey. But I think Inter is just the clear favorite. I know Juve is still there, like, in the race, but just the quality of Inter and every position. It's ridiculous. It reminds me of Napoli last year. Although Inter was good last year too. Just Napoli was clicking.
They had Inter had a horrible first half of the season. I think they
struggled
lost like almost 10 games. It was insane like how bad they were. I don't think I can think of anything else that we could really talk about at this point, but I love you guys. It's always great to talk to you.
Yeah, you too,
man.
This was a lot of fun because this is the first time I think the three of us have been able to sit down and talk for a very long time. So it was great to catch up with everything. Guys, if you haven't already, please follow Dan and Gio on Twitter. They're always great follows, great people, and knowledgeable Napoli fans. Some of the nicest that you will see. Nothing crazy that you kind of usually see on Napoli Twitter. Pretty par for the course than normal people. And it's not to say just specifically Napoli Twitter. There's crazy Milan fans that all over Serie A. But again, Napoli can salvage something out of this season. I know it hasn't been that great. The game is on Sunday. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to watch it live. So I'm going to have to watch the recording later. I'll probably get the match spoiled for me, knowing how some of my coworkers are with the stuff. But again, we appreciate you guys with all of that. Any other final things? Again, I know I keep saying this before we go.
No, I appreciate it, man. This was fun. This was good. It's a little bit of a therapeutic session, honestly, get some of this out. And I'll end my Silenzio Stampa now on Twitter. I'll start tweeting again. I felt like a hater for too long. I was so frustrated at the situation at that point. So I think it's been like 2 months. So.
Just do what I was doing when Milan sucked for a while, and all I would do is just grab old highlights from the great Milan teams and just post the link from YouTube on Twitter and just be like reminiscing, and that's it. I would just post Napoli Scudetto highlights. That's it. That's all I would do.
Gio, you want to tell him what you do?
Yeah, I just go. I just cry. I just cry on in the bathroom by myself when I'm watching Napoli highlights. So yeah. I already do that. I
bathroom if you have your own room, bro.
Dude, it's
when he's taking a number 2. He goes on the bathroom. He goes in the bathroom. He goes on the toilet and watches Napoli videos and starts crying.
I just reminisce, man. I'm already watching last year and crying because what else am I gonna do? Look at this season.
Oh, of course, yeah. I mean, I don't blame you. But again, if you're Napoli fans as well, and if you enjoy some Milan content from time to time, stay here, subscribe, follow us at That Milan Podcast. Follow me on Twitter at Martino Puccio. You can follow Matt Santangelo as well. Matt's just been a staple of Serie A Twitter for as long as I can remember. And yeah, I mean, Spotify, Apple Music is where you could also find us, and obviously here on the YouTube channel where you could see all of that stuff. Other than that, thank you guys so much for coming on. And yeah, we'll see you next time. Best of luck this weekend.
You too. Thanks, Martino.
Thank you.